British Columbia has made a rather interesting move. It is a Canadian province, for those not up on geography. They have introduced some new legislation. This law is called the Economic Stabilization, Tariff Response Act. The main idea? BC could soon charge tolls. These tolls would be for vehicles traveling to Alaska. Yes, through British Columbia on their way north. This legislation was formally filed in March 2025. It gives the BC government the power to act. However, it does not mean tolls are active right now. Think of it as a tool in their governmental toolbox. They can use it if they feel they need to. The province says it is a response, not an unprovoked action. They feel they need to protect their own interests. It is a significant step in Canada-US relations. The core reason for this new law is protection. BC wants to safeguard its economy from threats. They also want to look out for their workers. Deputy Premier Nikki Sharma was quite clear on this. This sets the stage for a rather complex situation. So why is British Columbia even thinking about these tolls? The answer lies south of their border in the USA, specifically with former President Donald Trump and his policies. Trump has been vocal about trade with Canada. He has threatened to impose tariffs on Canadian goods. Tariffs are basically taxes on things coming into a country. This makes imported items more expensive for everyone. It is a classic trade protectionism move, really. These threats are not just about a few products here and there. They have been described as erratic Canadian tariff plans. It creates a lot of uncertainty for businesses. Imagine trying to plan your imports or exports. You would not know what costs you might face tomorrow. President Trump also reportedly made other, more extreme suggestions. There was talk of military action, even annexing Canada. This, understandably, has not gone down well in Canada. The government of British Columbia sees these actions as unfair. They believe the threats are one-sided and damaging. Deputy Premier Nikki Sharma stated the bill gives authority. It allows the government to quickly respond to these threats. This shows a strong resolve from the provincial leadership. Let's look closer at BC's Economic Stabilization Tariff Response Act. It is designed to be a flexible tool for the government. The law itself does not automatically start the tolls. Instead, it gives BC the power to implement them. This would happen if US threats continue or escalate. So, it is a conditional measure, a defensive strategy. The Ministry of Transportation and Transit made this clear. They said this is not something British Columbia wants to do. The tolls would primarily target commercial vehicles. Think of the large lorries carrying goods. These are the trucks that supply Alaska from the lower 48 states. They use BC's highways as a land bridge, essentially. The legislation also mentions that coastal ferries could be included. This means ships carrying vehicles might also face charges. The specifics of who pays and how much are yet to be set. Government officials would decide these details later. The exact amount of the tolls is not yet defined. This would be determined by the government if they activate the system. Presumably, the fees would be significant enough. They would need to either deter US tariffs or compensate BC. British Columbia is not acting entirely in isolation here. Their proposed toll system is part of a broader Canadian reaction. Many in Canada feel the US trade threats are unjust. So, different levels of government are considering responses. It is like a team, even if each player has a different move. The overall aim is to show the US that Canada will stand firm. This is about protecting national and provincial interests. A united front, or at least a similarly minded one. At the federal level, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has spoken up. He has announced that Canada is prepared to impose retaliatory tariffs. This means US goods coming into Canada could face new taxes. It is a direct response to the American tariff threats. This national-level action would affect trade across the country. It shows a coordinated effort to counter US pressure. The message is clear. Canada will not be a passive observer. They are ready to use their own economic tools. Other provinces are also mulling over their own measures. Ontario, Canada's most populous province, has its own ideas. Premier Doug Ford has suggested a surcharge on electricity. This surcharge would apply to electricity exported to the US. It is another way to apply economic pressure from a different angle. Section 5. The bottom line. Economic stakes for Alaska and BC. These potential tolls and trade disputes have real economic consequences. Let's start with Alaska, the state most directly affected by BC's plan. If tolls are imposed, goods transported by road will cost more. This means items on Alaskan shop shelves could become pricier. Many essential goods arrive in Alaska via these land routes. Think about fresh fruit and vegetables, for example. These often come by lorry because speed is important. Higher transport costs usually get passed to consumers. The Alaskan oil industry also relies on trucked freight. Specialized equipment and supplies often travel this way. Any increase in costs could impact this vital sector. The Alaska Trucking Association has warned about this. They foresee disrupted supply chains and higher prices. For British Columbia, there are costs and potential benefits. Setting up a toll system requires investment. They would need to build infrastructure and hire personnel. However, the revenue from tolls could be substantial. This money could be used to offset any damage from U.S. tariffs, or it could simply act as a bargaining chip in negotiations. BC also has a significant stake in its trade relationship with the U.S. Section 6. Northern Exposure, Alaskan Reactions and Retorts. News of British Columbia's potential tolls has certainly stirred things up in Alaska. Officials there are understandably concerned about the implications. Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy has expressed his views. He is hoping for federal solutions to this growing dispute. He wants to avoid negative impacts on his state's economy. This suggests a desire for diplomacy to prevail. Nobody really wants a full-blown trade war, it seems. But the concerns are very real for Alaskans. The Alaska House of Representatives took formal action. They passed a resolution with a strong majority, 33-4. This resolution urges both the United States and Canada to de-escalate. They want both nations to step back from the brink and to seek an amicable resolution to the trade tensions. This shows a clear desire from Alaskan lawmakers for peace. They understand how interconnected their economy is with Canada. The resolution is set to be sent to national officials. Many Alaskan voices have highlighted the potential damage. State Senator Robert Myers pointed to the impact on fresh produce. He also mentioned the oil industry's reliance on trucked goods. Jamie Benson, from the Alaska Trucking Association, echoed these worries. He warned of increased transportation costs and disrupted supply chains. Section 7. Cruise Control Controversy. A new front opens. Senator Sullivan's counter-threat focuses on cruise ships. This is a significant industry for both Alaska and British Columbia. Many cruise ships traveling to Alaska depart from Washington state. Under a U.S. federal law, the Passenger Vessel Services Act, there is a rule. Foreign registered ships, which most cruise ships are, must stop in a foreign port. This stop must occur when sailing between two U.S. ports. For Alaska cruises, that foreign port is almost always in British Columbia. Vancouver and Victoria are very popular stops. Senator Sullivan's idea is to seek a waiver for this law. If the law is waived, cruise ships would not have to stop in British Columbia. They could sail directly from Washington to Alaska and back. He believes this would help Alaska's economy and tourism. Conversely, it would significantly hurt British Columbia's tourism industry. Millions of cruise passengers visit Alaska each summer. Currently, all those ships are required to stop in British Columbia. Losing these stops would mean losing a lot of revenue. The British Columbia Transport Ministry is well aware of this. They have highlighted the importance of the cruise industry. It employs thousands of people, they stated. It also supports hundreds of British Columbia businesses. These businesses benefit greatly from the arrival of cruise ships. The ministry also added a subtle point. Section 7. Cruise Control Controversy. A new front opens. Senator Sullivan's counter-threat focuses on cruise ships. This is a significant industry for both Alaska and British Columbia. Many cruise ships traveling to Alaska depart from Washington state. Under a U.S. federal law, the Passenger Vessel Services Act, there is a rule. Foreign registered ships, which most cruise ships are, must stop in a foreign port. This stop must occur when sailing between two U.S. ports. For Alaska cruises, that foreign port is almost always in British Columbia. Vancouver and Victoria are very popular stops. Senator Sullivan's idea is to seek a waiver for this law. If the law is waived, cruise ships would not have to stop in British Columbia. They could sail directly from Washington to Alaska and back. He believes this would help Alaska's economy and tourism. Conversely, it would significantly hurt British Columbia's tourism industry. Millions of cruise passengers visit Alaska each summer. Currently, all those ships are required to stop in British Columbia. Losing these stops would mean losing a lot of revenue. The British Columbia Transport Ministry is well aware of this. They have highlighted the importance of the cruise industry. It employs thousands of people, they stated. It also supports hundreds of British Columbia businesses. These businesses benefit greatly from the arrival of cruise ships. The ministry also added a subtle point. Section 8. Beyond the barriers, treaties, ties, and tensions. This entire situation with potential tolls raises legal questions. Specifically, it could conflict with existing international agreements. There is a real possibility that such agreements might bar tolls, especially on a route as significant as the Alaska Highway. This highway has a unique history and status. It was constructed during the Second World War. It was a joint United States-Canada effort for strategic reasons. Imposing tolls now might not be straightforward. Legal experts will undoubtedly be examining the fine print. International treaties often have clauses about transit and trade. If British Columbia's plan violates any of these, it could face challenges. These challenges could come through international courts or tribunals. This would add another dimension to the dispute. It would move from economic pressure to legal battles. The outcome of such challenges can be unpredictable. It is a risk that British Columbia must be considering. Beyond the legalities, there is the impact on relationships. The United States and Canada share the world's longest undefended border. They are traditionally close allies and trading partners. Disputes like this can strain that long-standing friendship. Section 9. The road ahead, navigating a new era of trade. So, where does this leave us as of early June 2025? British Columbia's legislation is on the books. The Economic Stabilization, Tariff Response Act is official. However, the tolls themselves are not yet being collected. British Columbia is holding this power in reserve like a card up its sleeve. Whether they play that card depends on future actions. Specifically, it depends on United States trade policies and threats. It is a tense waiting game for all involved. A key date to keep in mind is May 28, 2027. That is when British Columbia's toll legislation is set to expire. This provides a sort of timeline for the situation. Ideally, a resolution will be found before then. Or, at the very least, tensions will have cooled. Nobody benefits from a prolonged trade dispute, especially not two such closely linked neighbors. Diplomacy and negotiation will be crucial. This episode highlights the deep interconnectedness of the North American economy. What one country, or even one province, does can have big effects. These ripple effects spread quickly across the border. It is a stark reminder that trade is not just about numbers,